Welcome back, guys. We have a special project today. We're going to start working on the installation of a solar panel for our Beneteau Antares 11 flybridge. We have been taking a lot of trips with her, a lot of overnights and week-long trips. We just got back from the Tampa area, and what we have been noticing is that the battery powers with the two house batteries that we have on the boat really doesn't sustain the boat for very long. The battery voltage starts dripping under 11.5 volts rather quickly. I'm going to say within a few hours, depending on what we have turned on. So we're hoping, rather than install additional batteries, it has two AGM batteries down in the bilge, we're going to install a 100-watt solar panel on top of the overhang there, which is actually a factory option that you could order. We did not order it, did not come with it. So we bought some aftermarket parts and we're going to work on installing it. It shouldn't be too hard. Hardest part is running the wire, really. So here we have some of the parts that we ordered. It's just a flexible 100-watt solar panel that has the connectors already attached for the power connectors. The kit did come with some wire that we could use. It has alligator clamps. We don't have any use for them, but we have the positive and negative wires. It also has the extension cable for these PV connectors, I believe they're called, for the solar panel. Those are generic solar panel watertight connectors right here to attach solar panels. So we're going to see if we could incorporate that. The kit also came with this small solar charge controller. It looked a lot bigger when we ordered it on Amazon, but it's a pretty basic unit. It's up to 20 amps, which is fine for this one solar panel. So we're going to find a place to mount that somewhere in the bilge by the battery. Then some other stuff we picked up at West Marine. We picked up some adhesive sealant that we're going to use to attach this to the overhang. I'm going to not drill holes for mounting this. I want to use the silicone adhesive sealant underneath the panel and around the edges, so the entire panel gets, stuck down. It's not a permanent. We can remove it if we needed to. We need to get some additional wire. This is 2-conductor 10-gauge wire right here, which would match up with what we have over here. And then the wire caps, we're not sure which type we're going to use as far as the waterproof, run the wires into the boat. I'm going to use one of these here. We'll see which one. I sort of like this one, but I don't know what the longevity is going to be with the white plastic in the sun. But that's the kit. I'm going to show you where we're going to mount it. All right, we set a ladder up here to hopefully make it a little easier for us to get up here to work on it. But this is the spot where the solar panel will go. I measured it out. There's different size solar panels, and you don't want it to be too big for the space. So I have about 20 inches by 60 inches, I believe it is. And we found a panel that will fit in that space with room to spare. So we'll be mounting the panel up here, and somewhere around here we'll be drilling the hole for the wires to go through. That goes into this overhang, which is hollow, where the rest of the wires, like for this TV antenna, went through. Here is looking from underneath. I'll be able to take the speaker down and get my hand up in there to move the wires. The wires will be snaked back into this column area here where they could get fished down. Behind here, they should pop up down in the aft cabin. I'll have to remove some panels down there, and then I'll be able to snake the wires around to the lazarette and down underneath this hatch here where the batteries are. So down here in the lazarette, and then run the wires somewhere to a mounting location for the charge controller. I want to get it out of the way where it will not get any spray or any drips from the hatch here. So maybe up underneath here, out of the way. So back to the charge controller. Although it's pretty simple and basic, it does have settings for the different types of batteries. You could charge flooded batteries, AGM batteries, lithium batteries with this. There's all sorts of settings that you could adjust here. So it should work out fine for us. Like I said, it's not powering the whole boat. It's just pretty much trickle charging the house batteries while we don't have the generator or the motors running. Like if we're anchored at a beach somewhere and we don't have the generator running, it does draw down that battery pretty quick. So this will help supplement it. All right, here's our panel. You can see it's semi-flexible and it's very light. It's very thin. It does have grommets where you could screw it down, but I don't want to drill holes up there that I don't have to. We'll just use some silicone adhesive. Here is the brand. You can see 100-watt power. It does get mighty hot, I can tell you, sitting here in the sun. But hey, it's a solar panel that's made for it, right? It does have a protective film over it. That's why it's got those creases in it. So let's bring it up to the deck and see how it fits. I want to put it this way so the wires go over there. Let's just lay it down here for a test fit. Ooh, almost slid right off. Okay, so we're going to take some measurements, center this. You can see how much space we have around it. You know, it looks pretty stock once it's in there. Now you got to be careful when you pick out solar panels, how the wires. I would have rather have both wires come out one side of that controller flat, so they come out in different directions, orientation. So we'll just have to have a little loop going to the clamshell that we'll probably put right between the solar panel and the TV antenna there. But let's take some measurements. I got a pencil with me to mark this up so I center it correctly, and then we'll work on drilling the hole and running those wires in there. All right, we have that centered. Ended up being about 20 inches on each side from the edge. I traced lines around it with a pencil so I could get it back in the same spot. Measured about 2.5 inches from each edge from the end of the platform there. Now let me see how I could route these wires, make them look neat. I think we'll do a little setup, something like this, and have that clamshell right here. And I'll have to open up underneath. I'll take that speaker out underneath and see what kind of room I have so I can get a nice radius on the bend for these wires, which they're not very flexible. You can see they make a nice bend, but I don't want to kink them. Okay, looking underneath, I see I have this step here. So I think I want to get it under this wider area here so I have more to work with. So I'll have to move that clamshell a little bit more over. I think it was about here from up top. So I'll go a few inches over this way. You can see. So I'm going to be about, let's see. Yeah, not too far in front of that speaker and just to the right of that antenna. All right, this is about, I guess, where it's going to be mounted. We'll get a final location, but it looks like the wires lay relatively flat. They should be okay there. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is silicone this down with the adhesive, just so it won't move around, and then I could work freely with the wires. And it's not raining, so let's do that now. Going to clean the surface with some alcohol, just so everything sticks well. We'll get the wax off of it. All right, we got a cork gun set up, and we're going to just do an outline and fill in the middle of that square that we drew for the solar panel with this sealant. All right, we have our square all sealed up, and we got some in the middle there. Let's put that solar panel down. All right, we got the panel down. You just want to keep it in the edges of the pencil line there. You do have a little bit of play. You can move it around to get it exactly where it's supposed to be. Just make sure you squeeze out all the air bubbles. Make sure it's flush against the surface. Probably a good idea to put some weight on it too until it cures. All right, we got a few coils of rope on there just to keep the pressure on it until it cures. Now we're going to take the speaker out to see what we have up underneath this overhang here. Just need to get a screwdriver. This twists off. And just take the screws out. Well, this is not a good sign when you take the screws out of the speaker and water starts coming out of the screw holes. All right, not too bad. The speaker came out, wasn't too much water. It wasn't going over this lip, it just sitting, resting around there. Could be condensation. But I found this wire also came out. There's a coax cable for something. It's my TV antenna. I don't know what this is. Maybe this is for the radar? I don't know. A camera? Who knows? Maybe a backup camera. But yeah, you can see we got a lot of room up in there. We'll probably mount it somewhere. We'll drill on the back side up over there. It will give us a lot of room to work inside here. Drilled. Right here we have the grommet, the rubber O-ring, and these 3 tiny screws that fit in the cap, and that's supposed to secure it to the deck. So I got to use a really small drill for these screws. I wish they used something a little bit bigger. Okay, we have the rubber grommet on there. Make sure you have it in the right direction. It's easy enough to get the connectors through that. Now we got to push these through. Plenty of slack under there. Snake that all in. Grommet has a little protector here for a wire. All right, there's the semi-finished product. We just have to drill the small holes for the screws, and I think that's a good angle for it. All right, she's all secured. And we'll definitely seal it from underneath. Here's the view from underneath. Really easy to get some sealing up in there. We got plenty left over, so that'll work out good. All right, we are all sealed up in there. Doesn't look pretty, but it's squeezing out a little bit underneath the wires here, so that's good. We're gonna let that set up. I don't want to move the wires around, so we're gonna let them hang there like that for a while until the silicone cures, and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, fast forward one day. All right, at this point, we're getting ready to snake the wire through the ceiling of the boat. And I have a wire hanger taped onto a stainless steel antenna that we're going to push through the overhang and the void up above the ceiling there with a drag line that's attached to it. And it will push into another access panel that's right inside the cabin, behind the cabinets. If we get the wire to this point, then it could drop down rather easily right behind all of the switches there in that column. Haha, success. Only took 4 tries, so. All right, that semi-flexible hanger in conjunction with the rigid antenna wire was good enough for me to snake it all the way through. I had to stick the whole thing in there almost. It goes all the way across. All right, that is probably one of the hardest parts. All right, we finally got our wire through by snaking it through that way. The next step is dropping this weight down in that hole into the void that falls down in the column here, and it needs to go all the way down into the mid cabin. However, right here where the 2 pieces of the superstructure attach, there's a there's only holes drilled there. It's not all open. So I took this vent off that was right here, moved the hose out of the way so I get my hand in there, and you can see where some places you could bring a wire through, but I need to get that weight to drop at least this far, and then I can drop it further down below. All right, we were able to grab the weight, the hanger. So now at least we could get the wire to here, and it should be a lot easier to get it further down into here. So we are past the opening up there. should be able to drop it the rest of the way down there to that compartment in the mid cabin. Right, to fish the wire, we have to go crawling way across the mid cabin. Open up this access panel right here, and the wire comes from up that direction. The string might be in here somewhere. All right, I got it. We have to run it all the way in there, so that shouldn't be too bad. So I bought 20 feet of this wire because I knew I had about 10 feet of this solar wire here that has the quick connect fittings on it. So what's good about keeping these on is that that's the end from the solar panel. They're watertight connectors, nice and easy. I could plug it in, and if anything ever happens to the solar panel, these are universal for all solar panels. So I could just pull the solar panel off and plug into this new wire here. So what I'm going to do is they give you one bare end here. I'm going to splice that to the end of the white wire, and that'll give me a lot more length going into the boat. All right, we got our wires crimped together and with heat shrink connectors. So those are now watertight. Now this particular wire, you got to make sure you get the polarity right. As you can see on these plugs, coming from the solar panel, the positive is the male end and the negative is the female end. So when you're splicing these wires up, you want to make sure the yellow is negative on a boat and the red is the positive 12 volts. So you want to make sure that matches the plugs that will be going into the negative and positive. Okay, we pull the slack up into this overhang here. Now we can pull the rest of this slack down into the mid berth and push it into the lazarette. All right, down in the lazarette, right behind the generator, there is the grommet. All right, that was easy. Plenty of space in that grommet with the other wires. That might be the last of it though. We'll just pull all the slack out. Well, we're gonna have plenty in here to get to the controller. Awesome. Yeah, I got enough to snake around. I'm planning to mount it right up over here on top of the fuel filter because this is protected. It won't get any drips that from rain or anything might come in here. And I could bring the wire up to this, and then I could run the short wire down to the batteries, and we have literally just enough wire here to mount. Talk about getting it close. How about that? So I ordered 20 feet of wire. I suggest you get more. All right, being we're pretty much done with this end, I'm going to connect all the wires, connect the solar panels. I had cleared the ends, working ends on those wires down below. I cut them clear and taped them up so they won't short out because the solar panels are generating electricity. So we're going to put these together, stuff everything back up in the hole, put the speaker back, and get ready for the final install of the solar controller. Solar charge controller is mounted. We have the wires ready to hook up, but instructions say hook up the solar panels last. So we're going to save that for last. We're also going to check the voltage on it before we do that. Make sure we have the right polarity. So it looks like the closest battery here, this one, is the house battery bank. So I could tell that by the house battery bank has two batteries and they're linked in parallel together. And you could see this cable here. You got the positive going to the positive of this battery over here. So these two are the house battery banks, otherwise known as the service batteries in this boat. And then the other two on this side are the starting batteries for the two motors, because they would not be linked together. So they parallel the two batteries so that you get more juice out of them. However, it's not enough juice for me. That's good because it's the closest battery to our controller, so we don't really need a long run of cable here. And I have the cables. I just there's a convenient lug right there. I just need to find a nut that will fit that, and we'll be up and running in no time. All right, we found some stainless hardware we could use. I found the right terminals, lugs that we could use for the cable. All right, we got our 2 lugs crimped and soldered on there. Not soldered, heat shrink. Those are the ones that go on the battery. Now we just got to prep the wires that go into the solar charger. All right, we tinned the ends of these wires so they make better connections up there at the screw terminals. And let's get the final wiring done. All right, our solar is hooked up, and you could see it is generating electricity. It's not very sunny out, but it's generating 13.8 volts going out to the battery, which is good because I tested the battery when it was disconnected with no load on it, and it was 12.4 volts. So this is definitely charging the battery, which is good. What I noticed, I still have to clean all this up and tie up stuff down and clamp it, but I need to put a fuse in line with this solar controller. So I need to get myself a fusible link there. I'll cut it in with the positive wire. Definitely want to have this fused. But it seems to be working good. It is defaulted to the sealed AGM batteries, so I don't have to change any settings, but I can go through the settings here. It gives you a bunch of settings. When you hold this down, it starts flashing. Let's see, what are we at? That's the voltage. That's the load voltage if you were gonna connect something up to this for DC load, which I don't have anything hooked up, but that's how much voltage it's putting out on that port. That's the discharge disconnect voltage. When the voltage gets down to 10.7, it will disconnect the load. That's just how much time is it going to put power to the load. We have it 24 hours a day. That's a battery set. B01 is the battery for the sealed AGM batteries. That's how many amps it's putting out, 5 amps. And there's the voltage. You got your little solar. Solar is generating to the battery. And it's a little cloudy of a day right now. I think. Is it? Yeah. Pretty overcast, so that's not too bad. So, all right. So far, success. We'll see how it works out long term. I gotta tidy this up, put the fuse in, and we'll be all set. All right, so I just turned on the battery charger again, and you can see now the battery charger is charging the batteries, and the solar panel detects that the batteries are full, so it stops charging the batteries. So that's good. Working as designed. I can't wait to see how much longer the batteries last when we're at anchor this weekend. So there we have it, guys. Our solar panel install on our Beneteau Antares 11. If you got any questions, comments, or suggestions, put them in the comment section. I'll leave some links if you want to buy any of these products online. Best of luck, guys, and we'll see you next time.